The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Listen in as your host, Casey Colburn, brings together a perfectly picked panel of guests to discuss hot topics and events within the metaphysical and paranormal field. But don't worry, should the discussions get too heated, our studio's witch will sound her cackle to simmer the cauldron back down. Listen for new episodes of Cauldron Talk with Casey Colburn every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. only on Paranormal Buzz Radio. Good evening, listeners. It is Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and you're listening to Cauldron Talk with Casey Colburn, here on Paranormal Buzz Radio. I'm your host, Casey Colburn, and today we are welcoming to our circle Rick Schreck, his wife Kate, and their two daughters, Winter and Samara. And today we are talking about Ouija-Zilla. Welcome to my circle. How are you doing today?
All right, living the dream. I'm sitting with the whole family. Kate's here, Winter, Samara, Lucy, my dog, Jack, my dog, and Kyle's dog. We call Chico.
That's awesome. I love animals. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name's Rick Schreck. My nickname is Rick Ormortis. It was given to me by a good friend of mine who just recently passed away, so I'm going to be called Rick Ormortis forever. What's your name?
My name's Kate. Kate Tannis Schreck, I go by.
Yeah, and we're sitting here with our brats, but they're not talking. Again, introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Winter, also known as Winterable, and I'm one of the daughters, the oldest daughter of the inventor.
One of my spawn.
Yes.
What's your name, kid? I forget.
I'm Samara, also known as Samaniac Schreck, and I'm the youngest of the House of Schreck daughters.
And you're probably calling me not for House of Schreck, but because I'm the vice president of the Talking Board Historical Society, and we just had a massive event in Salem, Massachusetts called Ouija-Zilla.
How did you come up with the idea and the name for Ouija-Zilla?
There really was no how did I come up with it. It just kind of came to me one day. We were just farting around. I said I wanted to make the world's largest Ouija board, and I think I was watching a lot of Godzilla movies at the time, and I just said, hey, let's just call it Ouija-Zilla, and it kind of stuck.
Well, I think it's perfect. I really like that name. How long did it take you to build it?
It actually took me a year and a half, working almost every day. I worked through the winter, worked through the summer in a one-car garage with no climate control. So there were times when I was painting those panels in 7-degree weather, and I was also back there when it was over 100 degrees, with no windows.
I can imagine. It would have taken me quite a few years. Did the Ouija board ramp up any activity in your home?
No, because the Ouija-Zilla didn't do anything for activity in my house because it never made it to my house. I did the entire thing in the garage in the back of my tattoo studio. I own House of 1,000 Tattoos in Middlesex, New Jersey, and I'm allowed to use the garage around back, which is a very small garage. It can only fit my Suburban back there, so it's not that big. It's pretty tight. And I was able to have 99 panels of wood crammed in that little spot. Something funny that did happen back there, which Kate doesn't think is funny. I almost got killed by my Ouija board. Those panels are 70 pounds a piece, and they were donated to me by Trans-American Trucking in New Jersey, and they would deliver them 10 panels at a time. But because these guys are a trucking company, that wood is specifically for crates. It's actually crate wood. And sometimes it wasn't in the best condition. So one time they sent 10 panels to me, which is 700 pounds. And I had it all propped up, like a deck of cards against the wall. And my really intelligent thinking, I leaned on it and picked them up to look at them. And I pulled them towards me because I wanted to see if they were all damaged. And I got past the halfway mark, and they all fell on me and pinned me against the wall, and I took 700 pounds of wood to my stomach. And if Kate wasn't there to get him off of me, I would have been in pretty deep trouble. But it would have been a cool Ouija story though.
No, not really.
Yeah, that had to have been quite scary, I'm sure. Could it open up a huge door for spirits to come through? That was one of the things that I noticed a lot of people were really worried about.
Well, I have over 200 Ouija boards in my home, and I used to have the thinking of, what if people are right? What if they are portals, or what if they are doors? So I hung them all around the walls of my house, trying to invent the ultimate portal something, and nothing's happened. And we're talking 200 antique used Ouija boards, stuff that people believed in, stuff that people feared, stuff that they thought were legit. When I went and I created this thing myself out of crate wood, hand painting it myself, I didn't believe it was going to open anything. Calvin Von Crush, one of the TBHS directors that helped me assemble the thing, he said only thing that was summoned was joint pain. All of us were miserable by the time we put it together. But if you ask about portals and that type of thing, I really like to liken it to a telephone, right? If a telephone's just sitting there and nobody's calling you and you're not dialing out, it's not doing anything, right? I believe that the person that's operating the board is the one that's making all that magic happen. I don't believe there's any magic within the wood itself. If you were to talk to, say you called the person in prison that was like a mass murderer, like a really evil, sinister person, and that person even meant you harmful intent, and you called them and you spoke to them on their prison phone. Once you hung up the phone with them, they're not trapped in the phone. And that phone didn't become evil. It doesn't have any magical powers after that person stops talking to you. So the board itself, I didn't believe it was nothing more than some wood.
That's kind of how my feelings are about Ouija boards too. So, I mean, to me, they're not really any different than tarot cards or any of the other divination tools, as long as you know how to open and close.
Mm-hmm. Do you like horror movies? Are you familiar with the movies Hellraiser?
Yes.
In Hellraiser 2, which is my all-time favorite Hellraiser movie, there's a doctor, and he wants to open a portal to hell using that box called the Lament Configuration, right? You remember that part?
Yes.
And he has a girl in the mental hospital that's really good at solving puzzles. So he figures if he could put her in a room and she solves that box and he can hide safely, looking through bulletproof glass and stuff, he can actually witness the gateway to hell being opened and be harm-free. And the girl successfully opens the gateway to hell using this box. The demons show up, and the first thing they say is, no, they're not going to go after her, because he says it's not hands that call us, it's desire. So the intent of that doctor and wanting to open that gateway was what opened it, not the box and not the person using it. So I honestly believe that it's always the intent of the user.
I can definitely agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of questions I had about just the general use of your board. If you were going to use it, how would you use the planchette? I kind of imagine like table tipping.
Well, OuijaZilla, the planchette is 400 pounds. It's actually more than 400 pounds. I have no way of weighing it, though. I just know how much wood we used to make it. And the original construction of it, so it was originally riding on 3 bowling balls, but the thing was too heavy to make it move. So we put it on caster wheels with an extra one in the middle. And believe it or not, that 400-pound planchette moves with 2 fingers. I could pull it around with my finger and thumb. So
Very cool.
you could use it just like a real Ouija board. And your hands are waist high, and you could actually stand there and comfortably put your hands on it, and the thing will glide like it's on ice. Like, I'm very proud of getting that to work. It took me 2 months to get that planchette to work.
Yeah, that sounds very comfortable too.
Mm-hmm.
Even more so comfortable than a normal Ouija board, because you're almost like in the middle of the table. At least I am, because I'm super short. But
Yeah. Well, the ground in Salem Common, of course, it's not perfectly level. It's a park. An ideal setting for this would have been a parking lot, of course, on the pavement. But we weren't. We had such a short amount of time. We weren't able to sandbag all the ground and stuff, so it wasn't 100% level. And if we didn't turn it a certain way, that thing would ride all the way down off the board because it would go downhill.
Right. So where will Ouija-Zilla be stored?
It's actually stored right now at Trans-American Trucking. They were cool enough to give me storage space for it because, you were there. You saw those big crates. There's no way I'd have room for 4 giant shipping crates in my yard. And, the storage for it would cost us too much money as a nonprofit. So it was really cool that they donated the space to us.
Ouija-Zilla, will it travel anywhere else in the United States?
There's a real good chance that it's going to be going to Denver Airport. They actually have some stuff going on there, and Robert Murch, our president, was talking to them about displaying it out by that. Do you know that blue horse that they have at the airport? There's a big blue horse. They call it Lucifer, and supposedly that thing fell and killed the person that was making it. So they think it's a cursed statue. And the Denver airport has a lot of weird urban myths about it. And for some reason, they were really cool about wanting to have this thing displayed, so people would actually be able to see it as they were landing.
Well, there is a Ouija museum in there.
Well, no, we had a Ouija. We actually had a Ouija display, like a small setup museum in San Francisco last year, and that's what gave us the idea for the Denver airport. Now there is a museum in Denver in our president's home, but it's not open to the public.
That's really cool. We were talking a little bit about how big the board is. Can you tell us a little bit about the size?
Well, I'm finally able to talk about it. For a year and a half, I wasn't allowed to tell anybody the measurements, but it's actually 72 feet across, and it's 44 feet high. So it's 9 panels across of 4x8 plywood, and 11 panels down. 44 by 72, and without all the support beams and all the 2x4s and the weight of the stain and the paint and everything, it's around 7,000 pounds just the wood.
When I was there, it was absolutely gorgeous. I was in awe the whole time.
Thanks.
Do you have any other little things that you would like to talk about with it, or Ouija boards in general?
Well, I've always loved Ouija boards. I got into them all the way back in 1992, the very first year I ever went to Salem, Massachusetts. Coincidentally, me and my buddy George, we planned a trip. We'd never been out of Newton, New Jersey before. We were these young kids, and we didn't know how to travel a couple states north. So I went to a travel agent, and I asked her if she could book me a hotel in Salem, Massachusetts. And she did. She did it for free. She thought it was cute that I didn't know what I was doing. And we came up here, and that was when I first discovered the Ouija boards of Salem, Massachusetts. And I always wanted to have a huge collection. And there was no eBay, and it was very hard to find that kind of stuff. So when I met Kate, when I met my wife in 1999, I told her I was a Ouija board collector, and she was like, "Wow, how many do you have?" And I brought out this Rubbermaid container. And I was like, "Look, I have 7." At the time, I had 7 boards, and I was so proud of each one.
And that was a lot. I was like, who would have more than one Ouija board?
Right.
Why would we even need more than one?
Right. And then, I discovered eBay in its infancy. eBay was crazy in the beginning. You were able to send people cash. You could sell stuff on eBay and tell them, send me the cash, and when I get it, I'll ship it out to you. It was a different world. And nobody was hunting down stuff like Ouija boards on eBay, except for like less than a dozen people in the entire United States. So we all got to know one another. And that was the very beginning of a collector group. First, the collector group started on eBay. There used to be like discussion forums and groups on eBay. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but we tried doing that. And then when Facebook came along, we started a collector group on there. That collector group brought us all together where we became a lot closer. And that was the beginning of the Talking Board Historical Society. So it all started with, collecting on the internet and chatting with one another. Actually going to war with each other because we were fighting over some of them. But that was back when you were getting Ouija boards for $20. I remember like high-end ones were $90. That was a lot of money back then.
Do you have a favorite Ouija board?
Yeah, my favorite board is actually from this guy. He goes by several names, so I don't know his actual real name. But some of the boards are signed Craig Hunt, some of them are signed Craig Delph, some of them are signed Mr. Scratch. But he makes this Necronomicon board, this Cthulhu board, and I've obtained 3 of them that he's made. I have a red one, a black one, and a green one. They're my absolute favorite, and those are the ones that inspired the design from my original Ouija boards that I was making back in 2004.
Just getting back a little bit towards OuijaZilla, what was the best part of building it? Do you have a favorite moment?
There was, to be totally honest, there was a lot of miserable moments because I spent a lot of time by myself in that room, and it was very dusty, and the paint fumes were getting to me at times. I documented the whole thing, so I have a couple hundred hours of GoPro footage of me talking to myself like I was Bob Ross painting the thing. But my favorite moments were the times when my family showed up, especially when my wife and I had Kate and Rick Day, and we'd sit on the floor together, and we would spread the boards out. It's funny because so many people walked on that thing over the last week, and it's filthy. But when we were painting it, we walked around on it in our socks so we didn't scratch it.
Yeah,
it was crazy. We put sleeping bags on it so we sit on the sleeping bags and not scratch it all up. Yeah, it was a good time.
it was.
Watching you guys dance on the board, that was pretty awesome. I really liked that.
Thanks. Yeah, that all happened because the DJ wouldn't play our song at her brother's wedding.
Yeah.
And I promised her that. I said, you know what? You've worked so hard on this with me. I really want to do something special for you. I know a lot of people are going to be watching us, so I want to show everybody how much I love you. So I don't like dancing. That's the big surprise. I did not want to do that, but I want to do it for her.
Yeah, it was very sweet.
Yeah, I thought it had a little bit of some like symbolism to it too. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So,
And what was really cool, that couple that was was proposing,
Yeah.
nobody really knew about that.
No.
That was like a really big secret. So
Yeah.
that was really neat.
They asked me the day before if
Yeah.
I would allow them to do that, and I was introduced to them, and they said, please don't tell anybody. So I didn't even tell the directors of the TVHS.
Yeah.
I wanted everybody to be surprised.
I really liked that and you guys dancing and all of it because it scares so many people.
Yeah.
So to have that, idea of love surrounding it, it just, to me, it was really great.
Yeah.
That's crazy because like when I hear that, people are afraid of that. Our daughters, our kids, like they learn the alphabet on the boards. Like it's just a piece of wood. Like it really just shocks me sometimes when I hear that. That
Yep.
people are so afraid of it. I just don't. I still can't wrap my head around that sometimes.
I blame it on the media.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's superstition. I mean, if I was like one of the biggest black cat owners in the country, people would have problems with that too. It's I don't understand it. It's the alphabet and a series of numbers on a piece of wood. And wood is a byproduct of a tree. Paper is a byproduct of a tree. That alphabet is the same alphabet used to write a love letter to somebody on a piece of paper. Why in the order of A through Z and then the numbers does it make it evil? That's funny.
I think it's just the, what it represents, that connecting to spirits and what people are afraid of is demons. And, but those same people will be okay with going and, doing a ghost investigation where they're using like a spirit box or using tarot cards, and all these things are the exact same thing. Even if you're just using like a recorder, your intent is to communicate with somebody who's passed on, and it's the same thing as a Ouija board. So it gets back to that, knowing how to open and close, and you'll be all right, just like with a telephone.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because like when we've sat for at paranormal conventions, and we have a TVHS table there, and we'll have some boards out, just some antique boards sitting out there, just to show people like the history of it. And some people who are so into the paranormal, they'll walk like away from our table. They'll be like, oh no, I don't mess with the Ouija board. But I'm like, you're here at a paranormal convention and you want to go into a dark, haunted location and find ghosts. I'm like, but you're afraid of this board game. It doesn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, my thinking was always, if you are a true believer, right? There's people who really buy into everything wholesale. If you are a true believer and you believe that you can communicate with something that has transcended time and space to come to you, and it's giving you some sort of knowledge, and to believe to put that little planchette to the word goodbye gives you power over that thing, that's kind of silly. If it wants to get you, it's going to get you if you believe in it.
With or without a board.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, hopefully with this, we'll kind of break down some of those stereotypes and people won't look at it as such a big, scary thing anymore.
Well, my true belief, when people ask me, they say, what do you think it is? I say, I'm in the Talking Board Historical Society, and we honestly, all of us believe it's a parlor game. There's some people who are into using them, like Karen Dahlman really likes to use them. But the majority of us are collectors, and we really appreciate the craftsmanship and the hard work and like the soul that was put into that back in the day when people really gave a damn about their products. I love Ouija boards as much as I love a handmade child's toy, like a little fire engine or a little truck. I really can appreciate what it took for that person to make it. That's really what I love about it.
That's very cool. I like that way of looking at things too.
Mm-hmm. But people ask a lot about the Ouija boards, and they ask if there's anything funky in the house because of all the boards and all that. And there weren't for a long time until my daughters were born. Once my daughters were born, that's when things kind of got funky, and I really connected it to like youth and a child, a new life, innocent life coming into this world. That kind of attracted a lot of stuff where like things got a little funky in the house.
Well, actually, it's actually one of the phenomena. So when a person dies or when a person is born, your ancestors will kind of gather around it. It's like a rite of passage, per se. So when they're born, you're gonna, for at least a couple of weeks after, you're gonna start to see a lot more activity, just because, it's grandma and grandpa saying, hey, I'm really like you and I'm happy you're here, and they're kind of giving them blessings and greeting them into the world. So.
I don't know what movie I saw. I'm like a real horror movie nut, but maybe it was it Pulse, Kate? It was one of the movies where like if a child's born, like the dead are trying to get in, and they're trying to inhabit that new body.
It could have been that.
Yeah, we're watching one, and that's what I was like thinking. I was like, man, I think that attracts all kinds of, people trying to find a new body.
Mhm.
It's possible. It could be scary stuff. It could be nice things. I don't know.
Mhm.
So we started out with Ouija-Zilla. We went down this wormhole of craziness. I don't know. And I don't do drugs, so no, it's not drugs. I don't drink.
No, it's all cool stuff though. I honestly, there's so much that we don't know and don't understand, and it's all energy really is what we're working with. So, and I think that's why like a lot of the tools, it's all different ways of measuring energy. Hopefully we'll give people a better understanding for this too.
Definitely. Yeah.
I mean, that's what being on the Talking Board Historical Society is really. They're trying to
That's what
accomplish
we
that.
do.
Yeah.
That's what we do. And we show that, it was a really unique moment in time when this thing was created, and how it's grown over. We're well over 129 years now, right, Kate?
Yeah.
Because WouijaCon, when we held the convention, it was 125th anniversary. I think that was like 4 years ago. So we're somewhere around 129 years since the Ouija board was invented. And think of the things that were invented 129 years ago. Like some of the cheesy things people were like, like there were kids running around with a stick and a wooden wheel. Right?
Yeah.
Nobody's doing that no more. Nobody cares about it. But people are still buying Ouija boards like crazy. In fact, there's more going on about Ouija boards now than ever. And they're in movies and media and songs. Ouija board is like gaining in popularity. going up on 130 years in existence. There's something so special about this game that, I'm really glad that more people are in love with it now than just a handful of us that, gathered many years ago.
That's really cool just to look at it from that perspective, too, because I don't think I have. So,
yeah.
Thank you. I like that perspective, too. Thank you, guys. It was so very nice to talk to you.
Thank you for coming to support OuijaZilla. That means a lot.
Yeah, it was really awesome.
Yeah, I'm so happy that my mom actually found that little Ouija board that I had you sign.
Yeah.
And when she first gave it to me, I was like, oh, that's clever. Like somebody made a matchbox look like that. And then when I opened it, I expected there to be like matches or for it to be empty. But then when I saw that it was an actual Ouija board, I was like, oh, no way. That was so awesome. So, and she was like, you need to take this to the big board. I'm like, okay, that's perfect. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
So,
super cool.
Wow, nice.
Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining my circle tonight. It was a pleasure to discuss this spooky topic with you. And a thank you to all my listeners for tuning in. And as always, dreadful dreams.